well, welcome to our September 2nd meeting. Thank you for flexibility in being able to move the meeting this evening as I was traveling last week. So thank you for that. All right, so the agenda was posted. Any updates or changes to the agenda?
Well, you have an announcement, right, Mark?
I do. So I can talk through
Anyway,
that.
so that probably belongs on the agenda.
Could be
Okay.
another business,
It could be other business,
I guess.
absolutely. Uh, I'm just hustling along to find, let's see, we started at 7:04 and I need to start my stopwatch because I have to put stopwatch information on here. Hold on just a second. I'm catching up. Like my brain doesn't work when it's in a hurry. All right, we started. Thank you. Um, so let's see. S- So we've started the meeting and we have other additions to other business. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll probably, after we approve the minutes, I'll just start there as well. Just
Okay.
to get there.
Okay.
All right, so last time we met was July 22nd. Any additions, changes, feedback on the last meeting minutes from the July 22nd meeting?
Looks good.
All right, we'll move forward with as is. Okay, so getting into tonight's business. I had shared um, uh, with Keith and Connie and I think Virginia a couple of weeks ago that I was given I got a new position at work, and it's really taxing a lot of my free time. So I was going to be I offered my letter of resignation and stepping down as the chair and on the committee effective at the end of the year. So I wanted to see through the last few months um, to make sure that the work that we're doing, at least getting to a point of getting in front of the select board and sharing our thoughts there, and making sure that we have a succession plan in place, right? And we have someone else that can hopefully step into the chair position. I know our ranks are thin, and then also I think advertise online, right? Or advertise for continued support and interest in the committee. So I've been on the committee for 4 years, I think. 4.5 years.
Since the
And
beginning, right? Since the
almost
beginning.
since the beginning.
Oh, almost since
I
the
was I
beginning.
was like 6 months, 8 months after I think the committee started. And I think we've done a lot of great work, but as I think we all know that there's a balance between family and work needs and the needs of the committee here as well. And I just felt like I couldn't give um, all the time that is needed or deserved of the committee. So that was
Well, congratulations on your promotion, new job role, extra work that you're now carrying with you. And I completely respect and appreciate the time that you've put into this committee and the efforts that you're making to help us maintain continuity and continue to move forward. So thank you, Mark. I just
Yes,
wanted to say thank you.
my appreciation as well. Do you want to write an ad, Mark, or would you like someone else to write an ad looking for a new person?
I can do that. And I think we have some. I think we have some that we could reuse that we've used in the past. Um, and maybe that could be a good starting point.
Maybe Sarah is tired of being at home with the baby. We could get her to come back.
Yes, maybe we can always
Maybe,
ask. You can always
maybe.
ask. You can always ask. But does she have 3 kids now?
No, just the two, I
Just
think.
the two? Okay. Well, in any case, likely her arms are quite full, but her spirit is also pretty generous and large, so we could always ask.
Yeah.
Um, would you like me to reach out to Sarah, Mark, as you're doing this?
If you'd like, yeah.
Okay. And anybody else, please, when you make it a personal appeal, it really means something when someone says, we'd really love to have you on the committee. So if you think of, somebody who has interest and would be and capacity for taking on yet one more thing, please, reach out to them.
Yeah,
I'm
I think
already
it's
looking for 2 planning commissioners, so
Yeah, yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, moving on, we had 3 items under the general updates and discussion. We had the strategic housing plan, and I know, Connie, you had reached out to Jay Furr and Duncan about getting on the select board meeting. And then we were also going to talk about prioritizing some of the housing plan action items. And I did take a stab at reorganizing those items. So maybe we could start there, I think, Connie, as you mentioned, and then talk about the 15th. Or maybe you want to just introduce where we're at right now with potentially getting on the agenda for the 15th and what that conversation that you've had so far. Maybe we'll start there
Um,
with,
so we're on the agenda for the 15th. Um, we are, I am confused based on several emails that came over as I'm traveling, I'm trying to keep up with the conversation, and I have not successfully digested everything that is moving through emails, specifically from Keith. So should we spend some time thinking through that? Because I think that's related to the same issue of presenting to the strategic plan of the select board. Is that right, Mark?
yes, that would be, yeah, some of the feedback that came from Keith today. We'll want to chat through that. And it sounds like we have that section that maybe needs to be relooked at or updated based on some new information.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. He was pretty unhappy, so uh, let's. I don't want to present something that, and I'm thinking that Mark, you're not available to present that night. Is that right?
I am not available to present that night.
Right. So it would have to be us, the rest of us, which is, very doable, I think. But we have to be clear on what's working and what's maybe not working in this document that made Keith so upset.
Mhm. So I met with Keith this afternoon based on the emails that he sent. And first of all, told him that it was inappropriate to take this kind of hostile tone to a group of volunteers. And that this document had been available, as you pointed out in your reply, Mark, your diplomatic reply, that this document has been available for months, and we had no feedback at all from Keith on things that were important to him. So that was probably not a good idea, and we should definitely clarify his role in reviewing documents that are related to planning that come from this committee. So he said that he took it as a personal attack on his office, the Planning and Zoning Office, which I assured him it wasn't a personal attack on him and his department, and that the information was taken from previous documents from the Brandy Saxton report and, her work that she did. He had not mentioned that he didn't think that was valid previously, so that was an unknown. And, pointed out that there was a historical context there that was different from his time at his employment in the Planning and Zoning Office. So I am hoping that he is responsive to the fact that it is not appropriate to talk to volunteers in this way, and that we hope to always have a collaborative relationship with him, and that if he had come to the housing committee and said, let's talk about this, I don't really agree with this language, that the reception here would have been very friendly, and that we could have worked through things before this event. So, hoping to maybe start over here a little bit and then have some kind of information collaborative rewriting of this section that he is objecting to and feels is no longer applicable to the Planning and Zoning Department and so forth. So that was my meeting with him this afternoon. He didn't think he could come this evening, but we can certainly find a time to talk more with him, or, engage him in figuring out exactly what his take on this section is and how we might work together to revise it. So, and, I, as from the Planning Commission, probably should have pointed these things out to him earlier too, so I apologize for that. I'm supposed to be the liaison with the Planning Commission. I had no idea that he was going to just look at this document today and have this problem with it. So I do know about some of the issues that he has with this section that we can talk about if you want at some point.
Okay.
So.
Well, I appreciate you having that conversation and sharing some of the concerns that I think we all shared.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So-
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jen. I didn't want to cut you off at all, Virginia.
No, that's fine.
Okay, in keeping with the timing of the process, Duncan usually likes to get materials a week ahead of time in order to post them by the end of the week. So a week ahead of time of the 15th is next Monday, the 8th. So if we are going to revise the document in some ways, and still present something, if we are A, going to revise the document, which I don't know that we are, and B, also want to present it on the 15th, which I don't know that we still do, we can change both of those things, the document and or the date of presentation. We need to do it very quickly. So that's just and so it might take the better part of this meeting to sort through that as sort of like a heads up. Is that a goal that we have for this meeting?
Well, I think we should do one or the other. I mean, we should just decide if we can revise it by next Monday, or we can postpone the date a month, let's say. Should be plenty of time, I would think.
Should we talk through, I think it's really paragraph 4 on the second page. Should we talk through that quickly and then make a decision if we're still going to aim for the 15th? I mean, I do also feel that we should probably connect with Keith, even whatever we update, if we update tonight, connect with Keith prior to presenting it to the select board. So that does not leave us a whole lot of time. and to get any feedback that additional feedback that he might have based on that. So
Mhm.
I'm probably leaning towards needing to push out the select board date. Because I don't think we're married to the 15th. It was just I think the first opportunity to get on the agenda. And I know there were some concerns about pushing it into November, I believe, because we're talking about budget season.
Yep, that's right.
But I don't know. I
And
guess I
then
don't have visibility as to how critical that is.
there was another piece, which was Jay Furr is going on vacation. So that's why we couldn't do it on an alternative day we were thinking about, but he hadn't said anything about the October date. So, or maybe it was the early October. In any case, we can certainly move it out. It gets a little dicey during budget season, but we've still got time, as Virginia and you, Mark, have pointed out.
Before we dive in, Andrew, read any questions, thoughts, comments?
Plenty. I'm just curious to see kind of how everything plays out. I'm just following along. I wasn't heavily involved in the development of this, so just kind of on the back burner as it played out, and wanted to see everyone's opinion about the work they put into it to draft it and put it together, and the time it might take to get all eyes on it again and get it out in front of somebody seems quick. If we're talking about revising the document, we would still want to take time tonight to identify what could or should be revised. It sounds like we're considering doing that because Keith was unhappy with the position that it took towards his office, and I'm happy to look at everything and make sure it's accurate. I don't want to change something just because somebody told me to.
Mhm.
Married?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to spend some time looking at this, but certainly feel like there's a level of unprofessionalism that's a little extreme. So hoping to, hoping that this isn't also the first time that I've sort of felt that in my very short time on the committee. So it feels like it's a problem. Just going to say it out loud in the open meeting. I do think that his email should become part of our documents that are shared publicly because, you know, that was technically a meeting. So to comport with open meeting law, I think it should be shared on our website. Yeah. Again, I agree that, you know, I'm happy to sort of look at content, and to the extent that there was any recommendation or ask in his email, you know, happy to sort of try to actually drill down. But yeah, the tenor was pretty terrible.
Well, the words can always be interpreted in different ways, and I think I would hope that Keith knows that all of us had respect for him. About he's been a lot of help for the committee over many years, and he has a lot of intelligence that none of us or
None of us
understanding
have.
of
Yeah.
systems that we don't. It's great to have him around. So maybe like the language, but like I didn't think that I didn't spend a ton of time reading through it a couple days ago, but I didn't see anything inflammatory. So I was very caught off guard. Um, I think that this is not this document and this paragraph 4 is not unique to Richmond. This is just extrapolated across the entire United States of America. So it's not a simple fix. It's no personal endeavor. So I think if we can find ways to tweak things, I think if there's not a need to be at the 9:15 meeting, I don't see any reason to put undue stress on parties to make sure we get on that meeting. I know that we might have to squeeze in elsewhere, but if we are going to make modifications based on the developments today, I think they should be thoughtful.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you for those comments. Just to orient ourselves, what I had done ahead of the meeting was taken the draft and reorganized a couple of the sections. If you remember previously we started with water, wastewater recommendations, which I don't think are like at the if thinking of like things of more importance necessarily at the forefront, or something that we can control ourselves as a committee, right? So I did move that further down, I think to the final section, and really oriented around zoning recommendations first, state and federal subsidized housing assistance programs, development of community outreach and support, and then water and sewer regulation policy revisions. So those were the sections, or the order of sections, that I had organized the content. The only other thing that I had changed was this added an overall conclusion to the document.
And has it been like roughly, what, 10 to 14 months this document's been, we like in different pieces been circulated and discussed?
Yeah, so this was
Yeah.
starting back in, I want to say like October-ish timeframe of 2024
Okay.
was when we had started really making some assignments and trying to identify what were these maybe overarching areas that we felt should be improved across Richmond in order to encourage housing.
So I think that we should probably, especially if you're highlighting zoning recommendations in this document, by putting it first, I think we should have Keith involved in this discussion. I don't really, you know, I think
You're absolutely right.
it's, I don't think
I'm
we
at a
could
loss.
just discuss it ourselves. I mean, I kind of know what he objects to, but if it's going to be, if he's going to have any influence on the document, then he needs to be involved in the discussion.
100%. I guess where I was confused was that's why I asked how long it's been circulating, and I've seen Keith participate in our discussions over this document many times. It's very just I'm kind of at a loss.
Yeah. Well, and the other question is, he was assigned originally as the staff support for this housing committee. And I think we need to clarify whether he actually is the staff support for this committee or not, and what that means, because, all of these months that we've had this document, if he hasn't really read it until now, that's kind of a problem.
Yes, and that's what I thought we were doing all of this under his I don't know what the correct political word is, supervision, guidance, what have you, whatever you want to fill in the blank with. So it's my very point, is that I thought we did all of this in cooperation.
Yeah.
That ended at a particular point. I could try to find it, but there was a time at which he said, I'm overtaxed and I'm giving up my support role to you all. He said, I know he said he can't do it. And then that's when I became kind of the less than perfectly competent facilitator for the Zoom meetings, because I don't actually have access to the codes that the Zoom system sends out when it's time to open up a meeting, which is why we got a late start tonight. But essentially he did have a moment in time when he said, I have to step back. I'm overwhelmed. So, and yet that doesn't mean that he relinquished his responsibilities for doing a good job and things related to zoning. Obviously, quite the opposite. He has new responsibilities now related to zoning. So I think he did, in fairness to Keith, I think he had a moment in time when he told us, I need to step back. And if it was because he was overwhelmed with too much else to do, it wouldn't come as a surprise to me that he hasn't read every document that we've been working on until it becomes essential. And when it's going to be put in front of the select board, he's obviously going to find time to look at it. And then, absent all of us and our context and the conversations we've had about it and the our reflection on the presentations that were made to our committee by different guests at different times, we came up with this as a direction to go in, as opposed to a discouraging word to our current staff or administration. So there's definitely an opportunity to come together. The question is can Keith afford to do that if he's had to step back from this role? And I think part of him was also saying, you're doing the work of the planning commission and you shouldn't be doing some of this work. I think I also saw that in his email, though I have to go back and look at it. So there's that too.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to sort through all that because the committee needs to have staff support, especially when it's related to planning work. I mean, all of this stuff is related to the work that the Planning Commission does. This is not a subset of the Planning Commission, which it could have been formed that way. It was formed as a freestanding committee by the select board, but it can't just have no staff support. Connie, you're doing a great job with the logistics, but this is planning work, and housing is involved with planning, or planning is involved with housing, however you would like to say it. So, I mean, I think we have to clarify that. And this was before he became the zoning administrator that he stepped back. Since he has become the zoning administrator, he has even less time, but we now have a brand new assistant zoning administrator who is going to be taking some of the load as he gets up to speed over the next few months. So hopefully Keith will be able to have some more time to do the planning work.
So I guess where do we go for clarification? Did Keith mention?
No, I mean, I'll have to
They-
talk to him and Josh, and we have to figure out, I have to figure out exactly what was said in the formation of the housing committee about staff support. We will have to talk to Keith about what his time really is right now and going forward. So there's going to be sort of a variety of discussions about it, I think. There are things like this that will really need planning attention. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean necessarily that he has to come to the meetings of the committee. However, if he doesn't come to the meetings of the committee, then he doesn't really know what goes into these documents. So
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's going to take a few iterations to figure that out and arrive at some comfortable relationship.
Well, Virginia, why don't you and I take that as an action item and we can talk with Josh and Keith about support for the committee.
That sounds good.
So I think there's ways to just strip out and remove and edit like 9 to 16 words and what you can see in that paragraph. And I think it may not come across perhaps the way that it was interpreted by Keith. Streamline can be a inflammatory word. You can simply say strengthen. Make recommendations on how to streamline the DVR permitting process, engagement with an outside consultant to make recommendations on how to further improve the DRB process.
Yeah, I know one of the things he didn't like was that this suggested that we would need an outside consultant, that we should first talk to him about how this could be done or what needed to be done or exactly how the development review and process should be streamlined. What does that mean, actually? That's been a phrase that's been in the plan forever.
Right.
Various plans before this is streamline. It's kind of like okay, let's try to fix this problem by doing something about the zoning regulations. I mean, we probably should go back and reread exactly what Brandy Sexton has to say. And if Keith has an objection about that, then we should find out exactly what the objection is. I mean, I know that in the Brandy Sexton plan, she interviewed individually and in focus groups developers who said they had trouble and that the DRB didn't have a quorum on a couple of occasions, which cost them money. And, but is that like two developers who said that? That's a historical context, or is that a whole bunch of people who might have said that? So we could analyze what it is exactly what's wrong with the development review and permitting process. Keith should help us with that. Planning, I'm trying to read this. Yeah, partner with the planning office to figure out what the problem is if we think there's a problem with the development review process. I know it was something that Brandy mentioned. We should analyze whether that's a representative sample of what people really think, or I know the DRB feels that it does a good job and that it helps people through the process. And, it all depends on your experience with the situation, I think. Some developers didn't have a very good experience. Maybe, I don't know, Andrew, if you have any more information about that, about exactly what the problem is with the process and whether it's changed since, prior to 2022, because all the information that Brandy Saxton has was arrived at maybe from people that she's talked to who had experience over the last 10 or 20 years before 2022. I don't know, and that things are different now. So
I have no numbers or facts to spit out, but from a process perspective, what it is it's a cost burden and a time burden to engage with other third-party vendors that I have to engage with, to pay them to have the conversations and write the sketches and build the surveys and build all the paperwork to be able to satisfy the various check boxes of, you must have one facing street door here that must have this porch 6x6 with 8 feet of clearance here and 14 feet of clearance here and only 20% lot coverage over here. So it's like an algorithm you're trying to break, even looking at our basic multi-housing code in Richmond. So it's not that complex. It's complex enough where if you should be able to build a home on a lot, you should be able to build a home on a lot. If we're going to have a zoning density of 0.2 acres, 0.5 acres, 1 acres, it's tied to a utility line. Nobody wants to build a home that's worth less money than what they put in. Nobody wants to put in and there's very, very, very little faith that any person out there is going to build a product that is going to be a good product. Why would I don't understand why there has to be like these 75 check boxes that you need to adhere to from the look of the building for me to be able to build it. I don't want to build something that's crappy. It doesn't work. It costs $800,000 to build. Why would somebody do that? So that's the developer's mindset, is how many check boxes do I have to check off and how many months do I have to work with my engineer and work with the town to be able to get into their first survey, my first presentation to do my preliminary, and then how much longer do I have to wait to get here? And it might not be 12 months of waiting for the DRB. It might be 4 months waiting for one of the 3 engineers to get back to me. And if I didn't have to jump through as many hoops, I'd be able to, in Winooski, I can put a shovel in the ground and build 180 units in 30 days. We're not Winooski, but it's possible. Maybe it's not outside consultants, it's other municipalities. Hey, Winooski, how do you do that so damn fast? They have people. Keith doesn't have any people. So part of the problem is we don't have enough people, and that's not like a problem that the housing committee can solve. That's just a fact of the matter. There's not enough people to help Keith. So he's overworked, just like Mark's overworked.
Mm-hmm.
So those are like when I look at something like this project, I've been waiting 4 months to even get in front of Keith. I have to get in front of Keith as soon as I possibly can, but I still haven't because my engineer and my builder keep rewriting everything based on zoning code and how I can structure a building to check the boxes to make sure it'll get approved the first time I go to DRB. And I don't have to rip it all up and start all over again and pay them another $8, $10, $12,000 to redraft it.
And I think what
That's my
I've heard,
soapbox.
yeah, what
Apologize.
I've heard as well is that the as you might say this, Andrew, the check boxes might not always be set in stone. So there could be some, you get in front of the DRB and you interpret one thing one way and it's interpreted another way by the DRB and needing to go and potentially do rework, right? So I think that was some of the feedback I heard. I also had interviewed his name escapes me right now at the CCRPC and got feedback from Taylor as well on on um, on Richmond and some of his thoughts and feedback on kind of overall our um, zoning process. And I believe he at one point was also filling in as the zoning administrator for our town. Maybe this is a few years ago, and felt like there could be opportunities for improvement on how things are written and put together as well.
And I would think every town and every organization has room for improvement. And that's all that all of this intends to do.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I could see maybe adjusting the language a bit to be a little bit less sounding like we're recommending a clearing of the house and more of opportunity for improvement, right? And again, yes, it's not a indictment on any of the work that Keith is doing, but also like seeing it as a potential opportunity. Is there opportunity to improve the work he is doing and the work that our committee members are doing, right? Like Virginia, you already mentioned that we're looking for two folks on the planning commission, right? Like, is there an opportunity that if we found areas for improvement, that work could be a little bit easier and less onerous for committee members and those on the DRB as well.
So
And what do you think about this outside consultant question? Do we want to say that I mean, it just says it could be done through engagement with an outside consultant.
Yeah, you could list other municipalities, other grant writers, like
Mm,
it's all it's really encouraging is how do we solve these problems with only Keith there? And we don't have an assistant. We don't all what I recall recently was there were challenges to the tier 1B recommendation because we didn't have the staffing to support that
right.
type of growth.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're gonna have an argument that we don't have the staffing to support that type of growth, and then have a counter argument that we're perfectly staffed and have no issues with any of this, we can't have both. So how can we leverage other sources that we can't afford $100,000 salary for in Richmond that maybe we can obtain through I don't know what these things cost, $6,000 to $12,000 if you have to have a paid consultant. I'm not saying the town should spend that money. That's not my place.
Mm,
But thinking about that might be helpful as a way to navigate how to deal with an understaffed office,
mm-hmm.
so
right?
Brandy Saxon's report wasn't paid for by the town because
We got
Rafi,
grant writing for
Ravi
Rafi,
got a grant. Yeah, he
yeah,
got a $20,000 grant.
right. And I think that's what was in my mind, which is, oh, maybe we could add resources by getting another grant. And Ravi was the person who actually acquired the grant. He also got
Mm,
the intern twice from UVM to help us with our data. So it's possible to find other resources and leverage them. And that's what was in my mind when I read this information. But the key is people read things from their own perspectives, obviously. And we could make all those changes we wanted to, but if we don't fundamentally address the fundamental issue of trusting that we have a town planner and a zoning administrator who's, is doing the best he can and is trying to figure out how to make it even better for the town of Richmond. If we don't spend the time investigating what does that look like, then we could change the language a lot and it won't make any difference. So what Virginia and Mark are suggesting to do next, meeting and going through what is it that we are trying to accomplish and why we're trying to accomplish and how can we do that effectively and successfully and and making it like obvious by doing it that you're trying to work together with him, but that he's a scarce resource. How to make that better will come out more naturally after you've had the conversation than us just guessing about it right here. I
Mhm.
don't think we can make a whole lot of useful edits until Keith Oborn believes that we actually are trying to work with him and do want the best for the town and to help his office accomplish that. So it's like go the root issue has, I think, more to do with trust and relationships, and that's like as old as Genesis. So starting there and then worry about the wording when you're done with that, or let us know and we can help. If since Virginia and Mark, you're going to take the point on this and talking with Keith, I think getting the, you know, we all actually share the same values. We're all trying to accomplish the same thing. Let's figure out how to do this together well. And once we all understand where we're all coming from, you might not need to change that much of the document.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when we were saying consultant, we're not saying, oh, we're going to get an auditor in to look at what you're doing and tell us all what you're doing wrong. No, we're going to get extra resources in to help you do what you need to do when you don't have enough time to do right now. So that's quite a different emphasis, but it really could only be conveyed when you talk with him and work together with him. And I think that's what the need is here. I suggest that I contact Duncan and let him know that we would like to postpone the September 15th to another month, and I'll copy Jay Fur and we'll stay coordinated, find another date in October.
Yeah.
The
Would be
I think
my,
only
you got it
act
well said. Yeah.
the only actual recommendation to the zoning process in that paragraph 4 is the last sentence. And I think the last sentence is a very valid sentence that speaks to the type of housing that we have the opportunity to provide in Richmond, which is small house with a big backyard. Yeah, administrative approval of a 3 to 4 units. So it couples with tier 1B by allowing multi-units on what previously might have been single family lots that you would hypothetically expect to see a single family home. You do have to go through a multi 2 to 3 step process that involves a bunch of attorneys, engineers, and town administrators to make it happen, just to build a duplex. It should be a really simple process.
But that has already been changed in most of the districts in the zoning that are served by water and sewer. So the
Yeah,
tier 1B applies to districts that are served by water and sewer. So
yes, I know,
in the core
but
area. So
I'm
it can,
not, I don't think I can go to it to do administrative approval. I have to get to subdivide off a lot, one
oh,
lot.
just to subdivide. If you're going to subdivide, you're not going to build it on the same lot. So,
That's what that last paragraph, that to me, I read that last sentence as that's what that is. Um, Most other towns, if you go to do a simple subdivision of one lot that's conforming, you don't have to go through a process with the DRB. You just go to zoning and say, zoning, I'm subdividing. Does the lot work? Here's my survey. I got 4 acres here. It's 1 acre zoning. Can I build can I do this?
hmm.
Yes, here you go.
Yeah, well, it is a permitted use, but so not necessarily with the subdivision process. So that's what, I would like to have Keith hear you say this, and hopefully he will read look at these minutes, because this is the kind of thing that he needs to hear people say. That last sentence,
Yeah, I
it
guess
doesn't
maybe,
say subdivision, so what we have
right.
permitted is for the 3 to 4 family buildings on a single lot. It's an
after
allowed, a
it's
permitted
after
use.
it's subdivided.
Yeah, or a
After it's
lot
subdivided.
it's not been subdivided, it's just the lot. For instance, you have a single family lot and you take away the single
Yeah.
family home and you put up a 3 to 4, it's not subdivided. You can do that. And the curious thing about our zoning ordinance is that it talks about PUDs or the multi-family dwellings if there's no subdivision involved. And Keith and I have puzzled over that for a long time as to why that is, and that maybe that is, we have been changing that in our new districts, our new neighborhood districts. We've been changing that language about the subdivision, but the subdivision regs still need to be changed. You know, if subdivision is going to be involved, then we need to
comply
get
with-
to the, yeah, we need to get to the subdivision regs, which we haven't gotten to yet. So,
Right, so I'm going through the multi-step process because I can't do administrative
right, for a
subdivision.
subdivision, yeah.
Correct. Where if
So,
I were in, if I wanted to invest my dollars in Essex Town, Essex Junction, Winooski, South Burlington, Colchester, I could do it administratively at all those zip codes.
mm. So what we need to say in this sentence is if a subdivision is involved in that last
Simple,
sentence.
it's a simple, well, I don't know the legal wording. I have industry lingo potentially that I'm using, but like
Yeah,
a simple subdivision in my world is where you have a lot, you peel one off and you leave a conforming lot with a house
yeah,
on it, and I create a conforming lot.
right,
So simple subdivision, drawing a line through the parcel.
yeah,
That's like a multi-step process where I gotta meet with Keith and then go to the DRB and then come back to
right,
the DRB and go back
right,
to my engineer
yeah,
just to get a lot that I can
right.
build a house on.
Yeah, so our subdivision regs definitely have not kept up with any of this new Act 47 and 181 high density building. So
And it was, yeah, and
it
it
needs
seems
to be
like,
done, and that's good, you know, but we need to explain that in this document, that that's what we're talking about. That kind of thing is what we're talking about. Yeah. And then it has to be
And
done. The planning commission has to take it up and do it. So,
in our administrative permits, to build a 3 and 4 unit only in those downtown, the downtown divisions, like for example, out here in the ag farm residential area, could I do a 4 unit with a simple administrative permit? And I don't think so.
not a 4 unit, but they're no longer, my understanding is statewide, as of right now, there is no such thing as single family zoning in the state. Any lot that you can build a single family home on today, you can build a duplex on. Now, a
and,
triplex or a fourplex, I don't think so. I think it's then you get the asterisks. But if I can build a single family, I can build a duplex.
and we have
Associations,
that. We have that
yeah,
here.
okay.
So
And
that
that's
is not something.
yeah, but that's part of SB 181 Act 47.
Yeah.
They just came from the statewide and said, sorry, towns, you can't do this.
Yep. And so we already have that. So we don't want to say that you can't do that in Richmond, because you can put a duplex where you can put a single family home.
What I'm talking about, Mark, what I think you might be asking is, generally speaking, this is like on public water and sewer. You know, that's where the 3 to 4 unit opportunity through Act Tier 1B opt-in is a little more prevalent with a lot that might be smaller, or just like the even beyond a 3 to 4 unit when you start to think about it. But in this specific conversation, you're not going to do that in the country. That's not where it's going to apply.
Yeah. Yeah. So we, you know, that definitely needs to be discussed in here. But I think, you know, putting that kind of level of detail in is better than just saying streamline the development process. Because that
It's
just,
not a recommendation. Yeah, that's like a get better.
yeah, you know, I don't know. Anyway, that's more helpful to have something that we can actually do. So,
But I still like, I guess the additional thought beyond around like having a consultant is maybe it's around needing to have a, like, I guess maybe this is for you, Virginia. Like, do you feel like there is a plan that you have in place? Now, maybe it'll take 5 more years for the planning commission to go through all of the steps of the plan. But do you have like a plan in place and have an idea of how we marry up some of the state goals, the housing committee goals, with those of the planning commission and the town to say, hey, if we take these 5 steps, 10 steps, 20 steps, we'll get there.
Well, it's evolving. I mean, certainly
Right.
because we just put this into the zoning because this legislation was passed in 2023 and 24 and 25, Act 47 and 181. So it's all pretty new. So, I don't know. I mean, we should have this discussion with Keith. How long do you think it's going to take to reconstruct our processes to meet the new standards? And do we need more than that? And, you know, we can say, you know, if
Well, I
we,
guess that's where I see an engagement, like getting funding for a consultant to say, hey, we've took in totality the current environs within Richmond, and this is what we see could be updated to, and this is how you could update those to meet the goals of the housing committee, the state, the town, right? Around housing, and build that roadmap, right? Like that, to your point, Andrew, is like a recommendation. It's an action item. It's a thing you can do, right? Whereas, who all is going to necessarily do the work? Who has the time, I guess, maybe to do the work otherwise?
yeah,
Right.
well, so I think that Keith's point was that we need to talk to him first.
Yeah.
Does he have the time to do this work? What does he see happening? And if, you know, if we can describe better what it is that we feel is lacking here, then, and what other sources of information can we have on top of speaking with the planner? I mean, it was, you know, like somehow just set him off to see that was our first thing that we wanted to do was engage a consultant when we should be talking to him, even though we know he doesn't have any time to talk to us. So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
if
There's
we can,
just, I don't know.
yeah, go ahead, Mary Reed.
I just think there's a level of like, can we just sort of take a moment to like read through all of the language? And I don't know. This document, is for like the Richmond public. So I don't know. I sort of feel like we're going in circles a little bit. And I do think the conversation with him should happen first rather than trying to figure out which language needs to be changed. And it also then feels like we're pandering to someone who behaved really poorly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We should have this conversation with him, and
Yeah.
maybe Andrew, you should be involved as well, because you have direct experience with this kind of thing, and that's probably the way we ought to go, is to
Okay.
just have the conversation with him.
Is that
Well-
something you're willing to do, Andrew?
Sure. I have to meet with Keith soon anyways, as soon as I have my engineering together. So I have to play very nice in the sandbox with Keith because I have some asks for him and paperwork for him to sign eventually. So my partners are counting on me. So I'll do what I need to do to be helpful. I made clear as if Keith watches this recording, like I thought I was I just thought that we were in lockstep for the most part. I didn't think it was a slam on him. So
Yeah.
props to Keith. He works hard.
Yep.
And
So,
very good point. We just need to make sure if we're going to present this whole document that we all like the words.
yeah, right.
Okay.
So, and I guess we can't really have 3 people involved in this because that's a quorum. So maybe Mark and I should just start and see if, take the ideas that Andrew has presented with us already as examples of what might be done. Look
I'm-
at some other documents.
Am I permitted to speak to Keith when I meet with him in my own professional
Absolutely, yes.
endeavors?
Yes.
Yeah, like I'll share with him like
Yeah.
comments specifically about what we just discussed, that would be helpful in my own
Yeah.
interactions.
That would be fine. You can, people can talk individually to him.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Yep.
let's move on.
Okay, and
Thank you.
I'm going to get in touch with Duncan, right? I'm pushing out the September 15th date.
Push out the
Good job.
September 15th date.
Okay,
Virginia and I will connect with Keith.
thank you very much. Just wanted to
All
make
right.
sure I got that right.
So next up is the town plan narrative. So I can update my screen. I know Raid and Virginia connected on town plan. Raid, sorry for not being able to connect with you. No, our schedules were overlapping here, or not. Yeah, we're not aligning, let's say. But do you want to walk us through?
Sure. Well,
By the way, Keith likes this document.
That's good.
For
Great.
what it's worth, Mary.
glad we checked that box. So yeah, Virginia and I met, and I think came to a sort of meeting of the minds of what would be a reasonable narrative. There were a couple of substantive changes. So she did convince me that, the data can and should go in the appendix. I think we're going to be a little bit more clear about calling it appendix, having an appendix, not an appendix in an almanac, which can maybe help people get to the data. So our thought was just to sort of give an overview and a flavor of what the sort of problems are, and then have it, an attachment with some graphs and charts so that they're easy to read, and in one place, and sort of not distracting from the document itself. We did make a substantive change to the action items. We added a couple.
So the action item 3 or the goal.
Yeah, or goal
would
3 is sort of totally new. So, I mean, we welcome your comments on all of it, but especially that. And there was one or two, I think, Mark, if you go up, goal 2, number 7, I think that was added as well. And that was sort of from a recommendation, if I recall correctly, from one of the CCR PCs, I think their document commenting on our 2018 town plan. They were encouraging more sort of active language, and one of the examples they gave was something like that, or maybe that, and we thought that that was actually a great action item. And Virginia, I don't know if you want to chime in on if there are other substantive actions or other pieces of the document that we should draw folks' attention to.
Was mostly the material that you covered, and just took out some of the statistics and put them in the additional information and data section. And also we discussed a little bit more about what had already been done by the Planning Commission. So, some of these Act 181, Act 47 and 181 stipulations that came out, we have already put into the relevant sections, except for the Village Commercial District, which we have not addressed yet. And the Village Commercial section, it may not even be relevant because they don't right now have any allowance for single-family dwellings. Anyway, that is to come, and that is part of what's in the strategic plan. But the other districts have had the density changes made, and the permitted uses of 3 to 4 family buildings put in as permitted rather than conditional uses. So just explaining the fact that some of this work has been done already, and it was goals in the 2018 plan, might have been goals in the 2018 plan, but has now become a reality because of the work that was done. It talks about the formation of the housing committee, because one of the things that we're trying to do in the town plan sections is to address issues that were talked about in the 2018 plan, and the goals that were talked about in the 2018 plan, and bring people up to date with what has happened. So in the 2018 plan, one of the goals was to set up a housing committee. So we talked about the fact that this was done. A housing committee was set up, and here we are. So that was a little bit different. And put in more about Act 47 and 181, which is also a recommendation of the CCRPC initial plan assessment, was to actually put some text in about those laws. And yeah, that's about it.
So I had a question just around the goal 3 item.
Yeah.
I think can you maybe just talk through the change there? Because I think we had thought that that would be good for the energy committee that we have, or the energy efficiency committee that we have in town, for work for them to do, or community development committee. Is that just a change? Like, does that not seem to fit
Well,
within their agendas now?
I think I'm trying to remember if we talked about the fact that it was, that portions of it were in some other sections. This was to specifically talk about the fact that some homeowners, it was not necessarily about acquiring the home, but it was about remaining in the home, retaining the home, being able to afford it. And this specifically related to that.
Got it. Okay, housing
I've
certificate.
had
Okay,
this
yeah,
question with other people who are working on the town plan segments, is there are the minimalists in the group who want everything only to be mentioned once. And I have pushed back a little bit on that, because I think people don't want to be referred to another section all the time. Like, if we said, educate Richmond residents about the availability of funding to improve weatherization, then you would have to go to the energy section. So if you wanted to talk about some other program for rehabilitating an old home, you might have to go to an even different section. So the concept was that you can have a little bit of redundancy, because if you want to have a complete discussion of a subject, you can list those things briefly in more than one section. So that was the way that came about, I think. Anyway, the point was to help people to remain in their homes, to be able to afford it for various problems.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about energy. It wasn't just about historic resources. It was kind of a combination of those things.
Yeah, I get that now. I can see that perspective, right? I think that makes sense around just housing affordability in general.
Yeah, well, I kind of hope it works. I mean, it came up in a bunch of different contexts, and it seemed like it was better to have a policy that you could mention it in more than one place, because it related, and it's not adding that much language. So I don't know if other people want to comment on that, or.
I'm just wondering, so is the designation of the owner, like, is it appropriate for us to say who the other body is that's
Sure.
sharing that responsibility with us? I think it also just helps us coordinate, because if we're, actually fulfilling this goal and working to do this sort of education, it'd be good to be really clear on, other committees that are doing similar work, so we can collaborate.
Yep. And those owner lines, which I notice are missing from goal 2. I'm not sure why they're missing from goal 2 and they are in goal 1, but anyway, those will not appear in the plan, but that will be in the implementation table, which
Okay.
is a table of all the action items, and you can have whatever owners you want, you know, so like this is going to have multiple owners,
Yeah.
this
Okay.
goal. And that means that when we get around to asking people if they've achieved these goals, which we have to do at least once in the life of this plan. You're supposed to do it every year, but that's not going to happen. We need to reach out to all the different committees and say, what about your goals that you're the owner of or the agent for? How are you doing with it? Is it ongoing? Have you done it? You know, whatever. So, yeah, we can put, we can add to goal 2 and 3 owners. That's fine.
Do we have a energy conservation committee or the like in Richmond? Because I'm looking at the website right now and I don't see.
No, there's no
Yeah.
town energy committee. Nope. But there is an energy coordinator position, which is also unfilled right at the moment. That has been what we have assigned energy goals to in the past, is
Got
the
it.
energy coordinator. And Jeff Ford has been doing it for 30 years and he's done a great job and he's retired from it. So we need to get a new energy coordinator, and other than that, we'll have to give that job to, I don't know, the select board, probably. The planning commission, certainly altering the number of units in a home, you know.
So do we want to put any other owners for these 2 items here?
Planning commission can be in there, it's fine. Housing committee, planning commission.
Yeah, I feel like that could also be the energy coordinator. I mean, it's fairly
And the
broad,
energy
right?
coordinator, yep, the energy coordinator could, you know, we should be educating people about all kinds of things, which one of the community development goals that is being proposed is to have a communications officer in Richmond. The challenge that we have is the current outreach that was done for all the town plan sections has had many comments about not spending any more money than we already spend. So funding is a problem for any new position. You know, a lot of people want a recreation director, for instance. They feel that a recreation director would be really helpful. Well, that's costing you a good amount of money to have a recreation director. Having a communications director, well, that's probably going to be a position that is going to cost you money. So, yeah, that has been proposed anyway, is to have somebody who can keep tabs on these programs. The non-town committee, the Richmond Climate Action Committee, could be tasked with doing these things. They are not a town-sponsored committee, but they do some of this work. They're not very active right now either, so, you know, do the best they can.
All right. Well, what is next steps on the document as it stands? Do we need folks to take another pass through this? Are we good to say this is our draft and pass it on to the committee putting together the town plan?
I need to add the appendix document that I referenced, and think there's a little bit of formatting. If anyone has a moment and wants to provide any edits in the next couple of days, that be great, but otherwise I can just do those couple of things and then pass it on, unless Virginia, you have other thoughts.
No, I think it's great. I think it should go to the steering committee.
Okay.
And, you know, some of the other sections don't have their appendices written either. So we can either send it on with or without the appendix and take more time to work on that. We are trying to have a final draft of the town plan, all sections, by the end of this month of September. So,
Okay.
but no, I think it's good. I think it fits in with the style of the rest of the plan. I think it has just the right amount of data. I think it has
Yep.
some ambitious goals and, you know, which we can throw out there and hope somebody picks them up. And yeah, no, I think it works.
Yeah, I read through this past weekend and I thought it read really well. I did make one quick change, and it was just more of a grammatical thing that was in here, and I forget where it was, but
We trust you.
yeah.
Yes.
So
No, Mary did a great job. The writing
thank
is
you.
good. The writing is nice. It's significantly better than some of the 2018 plans, and some people are struggling with those. But anyway, there you are. It's good.
Perfect. Well, let's move on.
Well, let's say congratulations to Mairead.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank
That's
you so
awesome.
much.
Yep, very
Really
good.
nice.
True team effort.
Okay, let me pull up where we are with the agenda.
Prioritize strategic housing plan action items, and we have 15 minutes left. And we also have the FLU map updates.
So I think we talked through the strategic housing plan items, and I think we're good with
Oh,
next there. So I think we can move on
okay.
past that. All right. So next was the FLU map update. So I just wanted to share, there is a new map that was it linked in the agenda? That was linked in the agenda.
Yes.
We had received an email from the CCRPC that this, you know, they've created version 2.0 of the draft future land use map. It's available for viewing. They gave a link to the map and a summary to the map changes, which I can, let me stop sharing here. Which I can also drop into the chat here, but I don't know if anyone had a chance to take a look at the new map.
Yeah, so the new map doesn't have a lot that's different from the
Yeah.
old map. They did accept some changes from our conservation working group, who's working on the natural resources section. The only, the thing that I would like to say about the FLU map is that so the Regional Planning Commission has their new FLU map, FLU map. We call them the FLU map. And this is based on designations that they were given in statute. We will also, each municipality has a FLU map. And our FLU map in the 2018 plan was very vague and fuzzy and probably didn't service very well. We weren't able to use it in any kind of regulatory fashion. The point of the FLU map is to allow you to use your zoning, to make your zoning and your capital budgeting agree with what the region and the state wishes to see. So the only thing that we are calling differently from the state designations are, if you look at the light pink area, that area. Okay, so that's like Baker Street, Tilden Ave, up to the schools. That's our new Village Neighborhoods North District. And then we have the Village Neighborhoods South District, which we are trying to bring that light pink area, trying to bring the area around the round church into the village, essentially. They wish to call this planned growth areas. The Planning Commission had so much pushback on this designation because they feel that they don't want it to be called a planned growth area over any other area. But there's a designation that's called village areas that's almost exactly the same wording. And so we are thinking of calling those areas village areas instead of planned growth areas. If you look at the definitions, the full definitions of each of these designations, planned growth area, village areas, they're very, very similar. They're areas surrounding the core of the village, the downtown, the village center, which is the dark pink there. These are the areas that are just outside of that. So we are hoping, it is required that our map be compatible with the regional planning map. It is unclear exactly what this means, although there's a definition in statute of what compatible means. We are hoping that because the definitions of planned growth areas and village areas are both applicable to these areas, it will be easier for us to sell this product if we call them village areas instead of planned growth areas. So that's the major change that we have contemplated in the downtown area. In the green, the dark green is called rural conservation, and the working group, the conservation working group, has come up with some other pieces of land out there that are actually under conservation easement. So the Regional Planning Commission had not identified them. They used the current use, which is ag and forestry, tax abatement programs, to make their rural conservation designation. We do not think they are going to change their map, the Regional Planning Commission, to be like our map, even though they're supposed to be basing their map on our map. They have taken into consideration some of these additional areas that are actually conserved, and we know they are because the conservation easement is held by the Richmond Land Trust, who has been working on this green question. So,
And which green specifically? You're talking about like this area here, or
yep,
anything that's dark
all
green?
the dark green areas
Okay.
are called rural conservation. There are 3 designations that we are going to apply at some point to our big ag res district. Most of the land in Richmond is in this big district called the Agricultural Residential District. The state has required that there be 3 categories of rural districts: rural conservation, which is the dark green,
Yeah.
rural ag and forestry, which is that teal color. The cross-hatching, by the way, is floodplain, so that is conserved areas, cross-hatched, whatever color. If it's cross-hatched, it's in the floodplain. And the third rural area is those beige areas that are called rural general. And what the rural general areas are on our map is all the developed areas that are outside the village, basically. And they extend up and outwards on the different roads. So, this part you're looking at down here is, I don't know what we're looking at down here.
Just like Hillview Road, Cemetery Road, Huntington Road.
Yeah, this is the there's the Huntington Road. That green area that's now right about in the middle of your screen, that's the Preston Legacy piece on which is the conserved area. It's a big forested area that is under conservation easement. So that's, and nobody had many complaints about the way that was done. That was set up by some kind of a procedure that the Regional Planning Commission developed based on the state's designations. And they took information off, a lot from a lot of different sources. They didn't get the eased properties quite right, but they did pretty well. So, so that's the situation. Is our municipal flu map will look pretty much like the regional map now, which is very different. If you look at the one that's in the 2018 plan, you will see it's very different. But we are hoping that they will consider compatible calling what they called planned growth areas with village areas. These designations were developed for the whole state. They're more applicable to some places than others. And the villages had a lot of issues with it. The Regional Planning Commission took in a lot of complaints kind of about how they were worked out, but we seem to be okay with it, and we're not developing any different kind of future land use map than the one that they have. The state's goal was to make them all compatible so they could all be digitized and a coherent system statewide of all the different municipalities. So,
Is there a next step, Virginia?
no, our next step is to finalize our municipal future land use map with the changes that we have identified from this map. But the Conservation Working Group is also going to submit their comments to this map because this is still being called a draft map. The final will not be out until the spring, but we do not believe that they're going to change their map anymore based on our comments. But that's okay, as long as they consider our map, which will be slightly different, but compatible.
Thanks.
Thank you for that update. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, I mean, the only question that I think the Housing Committee could have is, do we want to actually call those planned growth areas or village areas? You might have an opinion on that. We couldn't really tell the difference in reading the designation, those two designations, and we just had a lot of pushback about the language that people didn't want to be identified that way, even though both of those areas that are near the core, the village center, offer, they have to offer infill development. There's not much room for development in those areas. The lots are already pretty small. We've already put in the zoning that you can have greater density. So we didn't know why we couldn't just call them village areas. We will find out. Regional planning may say that this is not compatible. I don't know.
Commercial?
What?
Is it commercial? Are the two areas different from what commercial allowances? Is that maybe the one?
No, there's commercial allowances in both districts, and they're served by water and sewer, or water or sewer. They allow infill development. Seems like not much. There's some little bit of difference between the village core and the neighborhoods or village areas, but not even that much difference there.
Well, I know we have just a couple minutes left. The final item I just wanted to mention is there was through the state a code of ethics training. I think how I read it from Duncan, I definitely had to take the training here, but that it sounded like anybody was required to take this half an hour training, 45 minutes training. It's this video you watch and three questions on a quiz. So it's in the agenda. It's really just around conflicts of interest and what to do when conflicts of interest arise. There was also a piece on open meeting law. I think we're all fairly familiar with quorum and the need to take notes and that we can participate electronically through Zoom in our meetings. They must be open to the public, etc.
And I have had a lot of trouble doing this because it's on YouTube apparently, and you have to watch the video. First of all, I just read the transcript and thought that was okay, but that was not okay. You have to watch the video and you have to certify the answers to the questions, and it timed me out halfway through. So I have to go and talk to Duncan and he has to help me do it because my computer skills are kind of limited. And it says if it times you out, just view it on another screen. I don't know how to view a YouTube video on another screen. So anyway, just go to Duncan if you have any problems doing it.
And then the last piece, next meeting and agenda. So I think most likely our planning commission, or sorry, our select board meeting will happen after our next housing committee meeting, so we can use that time to plan for presenting to the select board and then also report back out on feedback to the strategic housing plan based on the conversations that Virginia and I will have. Those are the items I have for the agenda. Anything else that we want to put on the agenda for next time?
The steering committee will be presenting the final initial draft of the town plan to the select board and the public in a special meeting on October, I don't know, something, I think 13th, maybe. It'll be a special meeting, a 2-hour meeting at the library to present the plan, but we have the housing report, so that's good. It'll be in there. We'll try by that time to have the appendices worked up, and yeah, and it may either be before or after the strategic housing plan. I think the strategic housing plan could go in as another appendix if we mark, if you know, if we work it out with Keith how we want it to speak. So either that or we'll have to have the final, we will have a month after the October hearing into November to take in the outreach that was done, the information from the select board, from the public at that October meeting, make a final draft. If we're going to have it warned for town meeting in March, it will have to be done, completely done by the end of December. So.
Okay, and our next meeting is the 23rd. I will be here.
Hey, everybody else? Mairead, you'll be there? How
I
about
will.
you, Andrew?
It's the 23rd.
That's September.
23rd.
Yeah, because this
Yep.
one we moved. Remember,
Oh,
this is
okay.
really our August
Yep.
meeting.
All right. Not Wednesday, but Tuesday, 23rd.
Tuesday the 23rd.
Tuesday, the 23rd at 7 p.m. Andrew, does that work for you?
Yeah, it works for me.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, Mairead. Glad you'll be still helping us, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mark. Sorry, I didn't say anything before. I didn't want to delay anything, but what a loss. But completely understandable.
Yeah.
Yep.
All righty.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
See you later.